Have you ever noticed how aging sort of sneaks up on you? Not in one big dramatic moment, but in tiny little changes you almost miss at first? One morning you realize that recovering from a late night takes 2 cups of coffee instead of 1. Or you find yourself forgetting where you put your keys not once but twice in the same day. And you wonder almost with a smile, when did this start happening? That's the thing about growing older. It doesn't feel like a sharp corner you turn. It feels like a slow drift into new territory. And here's the truth most people don't tell you. Aging isn't just about adding years to your life. It's about learning how to live inside those years differently. Today, I want us to talk honestly about that. About the truths nobody really warns you about. Not to scare you, but to empower you. Because if you see these things coming, if you know how they whisper into your life, you can meet them with strength, with grace, and with a lot more joy than fear. The first truth, and it's a big one, is that energy becomes a negotiation, not a guarantee. When we were younger, energy felt endless. You could stay up late, eat a questionable fast food meal at midnight, and bounce back the next morning like nothing happened. Now energy feels more like a precious currency, something you have to spend wisely if you want it to last. You notice that some days you can conquer the world, clean the house, call the grandkids, go for a walk, and still have a little left in the tank for yourself. And other days, brushing your teeth feels like it took all the strength you had. That's not laziness. That's biology. As we move through our 40s, 50s, and beyond, our body's ability to regenerate energy slows down, not because we're doing something wrong, but because it's part of the natural wear and tear of life itself. But here's where the magic happens. You can learn how to spend your energy better. Like budgeting your time or your money, you can start making conscious decisions about where your energy goes. And every small choice you make adds up. Choosing a short walk over endless scrolling on your phone, taking a 10-minute nap instead of pushing through another hour of fatigue, saying no to commitments that drain you just to please others. These little shifts don't just protect your energy, they actually build more of it. And maybe the most important part, learning to forgive yourself on the days when energy feels scarce. You are not defined by how much you produce. You are worthy of care on the busy days and the quiet ones too. Let's breathe into that for a moment, because understanding that truth early can change how you walk through the years ahead. Now, woven right alongside energy is another truth that catches a lot of people off guard. And it's that friendship becomes intentional, not automatic. Remember how easy it used to be to make friends, in school, at work, through your kids' activities. Connections just seemed to sprout up around you like wildflowers. You didn't even have to think about it. But as we age, those automatic pathways thin out. People move, jobs change, life speeds up in one season and slows down in another. And if you're not careful, one day you wake up and realize that months, or even years, have passed without forging a new connection or tending to an old one. It's not because you've become unlovable. It's because the structure that once made friendship effortless no longer carries you. And so, friendship after 40, after 50, after 60, becomes a choice. A reaching out, even when it feels vulnerable. A conscious tending, like watering a plant you really want to see bloom. The beautiful thing is that intentional friendships are often deeper, richer, and more resilient than the ones we stumbled into when we were young. Because now, you choose them. You show up on purpose. You invest with full awareness of how precious good company really is. Maybe today is a good day to text someone you've been thinking about. Or to say yes to that coffee invite, even though your first instinct was to stay curled up at home. Because connection, just like energy, doesn't refill itself automatically anymore. It grows where you plant it. Let's just sit with that idea for a second. Not with heaviness, but with hope. Because once you realize how these parts of life evolve, you can lean into them with so much more wisdom than fear. And there's another truth about growing older that's even quieter. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's the reality that your definition of success quietly changes. When we're younger, success often looks like a checklist. The job title, the promotion, the big house, the packed calendar, the fancy vacations. And those things can be wonderful. Absolutely. They fuel dreams, they offer security, they give us milestones to aim for. But as we grow older, something shifts. Success starts to look less like a list you can show off to others, and more like a feeling you carry inside your own chest. It becomes waking up without dread, having the energy to walk your dog, laughing so hard your cheeks hurt with someone you love, sitting down to a quiet meal you cooked yourself and feeling proud, content. The world won't always recognize these victories. There's no bonus check for maintaining your health or nurturing your marriage or forgiving yourself for past mistakes. But make no mistake, these quiet victories are the ones that matter most. And if you don't recognize that shift, if you keep chasing the old definitions, you can end up feeling empty even after achieving so much. That's the danger nobody talks about. That chasing the same external measures of success in your 50s or 60s that you did at 25 doesn't just exhaust you, it disconnects you from the richness available right now. Take a deep breath with me for a second, then ask yourself, what if success today meant feeling aligned with your real priorities? What if it meant honoring your body's needs, tending to your relationships, creating space for joy and curiosity, instead of squeezing yourself into an outdated race you no longer need to run? That question alone can change your days and your decades ahead. Now, closely tied to this, and maybe even trickier to face, is the fourth truth that nobody prepares you for: the emotional weight of letting go. It's a hard one to talk about, but we have to. Because as beautiful as life is, aging inevitably brings loss of people, of roles, sometimes even parts of yourself you once thought were permanent. And while culture often pushes a stay positive, stay busy mantra, the truth is, grief is not something you outgrow. It's something you learn to walk alongside. It shows up in ways you might not expect. Feeling a sudden ache when you pass your old workplace. Missing the way your body could sprint upstairs without a second thought. Noticing the way holidays feel different because a loved one isn't there. And if we don't give ourselves permission to feel it, to honor it, we start carrying that grief like an invisible weight, dragging it behind us through every new chapter. But when we do give it room, when we say, this matters, this is hard, this deserves space, something almost magical happens. Grief, instead of hardening us, starts deepening us. It cracks open places in the heart that allow for more empathy, more gratitude, more present moment living than we ever thought possible. You don't have to be fearless. You don't have to move on like nothing happened. You're allowed to move forward with your memories, with your love, with your history, and still build new beautiful chapters. Let's just let that settle for a moment. Because it's a truth that deserves a little reverence. None of these realities are meant to scare you. They're meant to set you free, free from outdated expectations, free from punishing comparisons, free to actually live in the truth of who you are now, not who you used to be, and not who the world says you're supposed to become. And when you embrace these four quiet truths, something even more powerful happens. You start living lighter. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you stop dragging around unnecessary burdens. You stop measuring your worth by old yardsticks that no longer fit the landscape of your life. You stop chasing things you don't even want anymore, and start creating space for the things that actually fill you up. One of the first shifts you might notice is a deep, almost startling appreciation for small moments. The morning sun warming your face while you sip your coffee. The feeling of your favorite sweater, soft against your skin. A joke shared with an old friend that makes you laugh until tears run down your cheeks. These aren't consolation prizes. They're the real treasures. They were always there, waiting for you to slow down enough to see them. And the more you notice them, the more life starts to feel full again. Even without the big achievements, even without the constant forward hustle that used to define success. It's a little like walking into a familiar garden at a different time of day. Suddenly you notice the way the light hits the flowers, the way the bees hum just beneath the noise of the world, the way everything has been growing all along without your frantic pushing. It's not that ambition disappears. It's just that ambition finds a new shape. Instead of striving to prove something to others, you start building a life that feels good on the inside. You begin investing in experiences, not appearances, in meaning, not approval. And from that place, energy returns. Creativity returns. Even physical vitality often improves because the constant background stress of trying to be something you no longer need to be finally quiets down. It's strange how nobody really prepares you for that. For the fact that growing older when you do it with intention and tenderness isn't about decline, it's about expansion. About deepening into yourself. About becoming less polished but more real, less rigid but more rooted. Maybe you've already felt glimpses of it. Those mornings when you feel strong in your own skin. Those conversations where you finally speak your mind without apology. Those days when you trust yourself enough to say no without guilt, or yes without overthinking. It's all connected to these quiet truths we've been talking about. The sooner you embrace them, the sooner you give yourself permission to live, with less fear, and a whole lot more joy. And speaking of joy, it's important to remember that embracing change doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means your dreams get to evolve along with you. Maybe your dreams now are less about climbing and more about savoring, less about accumulation and more about connection, less about being seen and more about seeing yourself, your loved ones, this incredible world around you. Let's pause here for a deep breath and really let that sink in. You're not falling behind. You're not running out of time. You're arriving, right here, right now, and from this place. The next chapter of your life can be richer, deeper, and even more beautiful than anything that came before. When you start arriving fully into your own life, something beautiful happens. You stop asking, what am I supposed to be doing now? And start asking, what do I want this season to feel like? Because here's the truth. Most people skip over. Growing older doesn't erase your right to new beginnings. It doesn't cancel out your dreams or your curiosity or your hunger for meaning. If anything, it gives you more fuel for them, because now you know how precious your time and energy really are. You know that a beautiful life isn't built in frantic leaps. It's crafted moment by moment, conversation by conversation, choice by choice. You know that relationships matter more than perfection, that laughter matters more than status, that being deeply present with someone you love beats being impressive to someone you barely know. You also know that energy is a resource, and where you invest it shapes what blooms next in your life. You can pour it into resentment, or into forgiveness, into regret, or into learning, into fear, or into wonder. You get to choose every day what grows. It's one of the most powerful and freeing realizations of midlife. You are not stuck. You are not too late. You're not past your prime. You are standing at a threshold carrying everything you've earned. The wisdom, the grit, the tenderness, the hard-won compassion. And you get to decide what comes next. Maybe that means starting small. Taking a class for fun, not for a credential. Reaching out to someone you miss, even if it's been too long. Finally painting that picture, planting that garden, writing that story you've been carrying quietly inside you for years. Maybe it means resting more often, not out of weakness, but out of respect for your body that has carried you so far already. Maybe it means letting joy be enough. There's this quiet revolution that happens when you stop measuring yourself against what you used to be able to do and start celebrating what you still can do and what you can become. Because no one tells you this part enough either. There's a kind of beauty, a kind of magnetic aliveness that only people who have truly lived can carry. It's not found in youth, it's earned. It's felt in the way you smile, the way you listen, the way you show up, unhurried, unshaken, unapologetic. And maybe the greatest gift of aging isn't that you finally have all the answers. It's that you realize you don't need them. You realize that life is not a test to pass. It's an experience to savor. So if you've been wondering whether it's too late to feel energized again, to feel connected again, to feel excited about what's ahead again, let this be your reminder. It's not too late. You are right on time. Take one small step today. One small decision to choose life over fear, curiosity over comfort, joy over perfection. And then another, and another. Because a beautiful next chapter isn't something you stumble into. It's something you create, by living this moment with as much heart and hope as you can.